Most widows can barely get out of bed for months. Erika Kirk became a CEO.
We always knew there were threats. We always knew that there were people out there that hated us with deep, deep passion of hate. But it didn't scare us. He was never afraid of that. Neither was I. Obviously, we protect our children. You know, we don't show their faces on the internet, so that's very intentional. But I think we lived our life in such a way where if that was our last day, it was our last day. Like, we always lived as if it was the last day. That's why Charlie's speeches were so good, because he didn't know if that was going to be his last speech. And he was so intentional about every word. Every word had a meaning, and every speech had a connection point.
Her husband, Charlie Kirk, was shot and killed on September 10th. By November, she was running his entire organization, wearing designer gowns and posting birthday photos with captions like, "My first birthday without Charlie," while smiling like she just won the lottery. And people are noticing, because this doesn't look like grief. This looks like opportunity. In this video, you're about to see the footage that has millions questioning everything. The hug with JD Vance that broke the internet. The interview where she laughed while talking about her dead husband. And the moment Trump's face said what we're all thinking. Stick around, because by the end of this, you're going to understand why the entire internet is asking, is Erika Kirk mourning or moving on way too fast? When Charlie Kirk died, the world expected his widow to disappear for a while. You know, grieve privately, take time away from the cameras, maybe stay off social media for a bit. Instead, Erika Kirk is everywhere. And I mean everywhere. Birthday parties, political events, intimate hugs with powerful men, designer outfits, emotional interviews that somehow don't feel emotional. And people are starting to ask one big question. Is this real grief, or is something else going on here? In this video, you're going to see a lot of recent footages of Erika that has millions of people confused. Okay, so before we dive into these viral footages, let me catch you up real quick. But note that I'm not going to cover what happened to Charlie, as everyone here already knows that. Now, for Erika Kirk, she isn't just anyone. She's a former Miss Arizona USA who married Charlie Kirk, one of the biggest names in conservative politics. They had 2 kids together, a picture-perfect family. Then, as we all know, on September 10th, 2025, everything changed. Charlie was shot and killed during his American comeback tour at Utah Valley University in Utah. The shooter was a 20-year-old guy named Tyler Robinson. President Donald Trump himself called Charlie the great and legendary Charlie Kirk. The whole nation was in shock. Now, here's where things get interesting. Within weeks of her husband's death, Erika did something that stunned everyone. First, she publicly forgave the killer. Then, she became the CEO of Turning Point USA, the organization her husband built. And she started appearing everywhere, looking more put together than most people do on their best day. And that's when people started noticing something. Her behavior didn't match what anyone expected from a grieving widow. And the footage we're about to show you, it's exactly why millions of people are now asking questions. Let's get into it. So this one happened recently, and honestly, it made a lot of people stop scrolling.
Right, make a wish. You can't tell me what it is though. Make sure it's a good one.
Erika posted about her birthday on Instagram. And look, I get it. Birthdays happen whether we want them to or not. But here's what got people talking. Her caption said, "My first birthday without Charlie." Now, when you read that, you expect maybe a sad photo, maybe a throwback picture with her late husband, something that shows she's struggling, right? But that's not what we got. Instead, Erika is smiling, celebrating, living her absolute best life. And people in the comments couldn't believe it. One person wrote, and I'm not making this up, she wishes for JD Vance to be her new husband. Now, why would someone say that? Well, keep watching, because the next piece of footage is going to blow your mind. Look, I'm not saying people should lock themselves in a dark room forever when they lose someone. Everyone grieves differently, I get that. But there's something about the energy here that just feels off. You know what I mean? Most widows I know can barely function for months after losing their husband. They're not throwing birthday parties, they're not posting happy photos, they're just trying to survive each day. But Erika, she's out here celebrating. And that's exactly why people are side-eyeing everything she does now. Okay, so remember that comment about JD Vance? Well, there's a reason people are saying that, and you need to see this footage. This This is Erika Kirk hugging Vice President JD Vance at a Turning Point USA event at the University of Mississippi. And listen, I've seen a lot of hugs in my life, but this one is different. Look at where her hand is, on the back of his head. Not his shoulder, not his back, the back of his head. That's intimate, that's personal. And look at his hands, they're on her waist, not her back, her waist. Now, I don't know about you, but when I hug someone at a professional event, it doesn't look like this. This looks like something else entirely. And it gets worse. Right before this hug, Erika said something on stage that made everyone's jaw drop. She said, and I quote, "I see some similarities of my husband in JD Vance." Wait, what? Your husband just died less than a month ago, and you're already comparing another man to him? In public? On camera? People weren't just uncomfortable watching this, they were suspicious. Because here's the thing, JD Vance's own marriage has been rocky. He's even admitted in interviews that his wife not sharing his Christian faith has been a political problem for him. So now you've got a newly widowed woman hugging a married man whose marriage is struggling. And it's not just a quick hug, it's lingering, it's intimate. And millions of people watched it happen in real time. The internet lost its mind. People started making videos breaking down the body language frame by frame. Relationship experts weighed in. Even people who supported Erika were like, okay, this is a bit much. But here's where it gets even crazier. Erika responded to the backlash, and her response? Well, you have to see it to believe it. So after that hug went viral, Erika sat down with Megyn Kelly, and Megyn brought up the controversy directly.
I mean, did you see people didn't understand the hug that you and JD had? They went to the weirdest places, Erika.
Oh my gosh. You guys, please. So for those of you who know me, I hug is
Yes,
like,
you're an intense hugger. It's
whoever
awesome.
is like hating on a hug needs a hug themselves. I will give you a free hug anytime you want a hug. My love language is touch, if you will. But seriously, that hug. So I will give you a play-by-play. Like walking, they just played the emotional video. I'm walking over, he's walking over, I'm starting to cry. He says, he's so proud of you. And I say, God bless you. And I touch the back of his head. Anyone who I've hugged that I have touched the back of your head when I hug you, I always say, God bless you. That's just me. If you want to take that out of context, go right ahead. Again, that to me shows that you need a hug more than anyone else. So if anyone...
They were acting like you touched the back of his ass.
I feel like I wouldn't get as much hate if I did that versus... But no, seriously, so now when I go and hug people, I'll bring them back in and be like, I obviously didn't give you the right hug. Like, come, let me touch the back of your head.
Where do the hands go?
I don't know what to do with my
Can't
hands.
touch the head. What can I touch?
I know. I'll just...
Not me.
yeah,
I'm always
just
like,
stand.
if you touch the back of my head, I'm like, oh, she's feeling the extension.
Okay, let's break this down, because there's a lot happening here. First, watch what happens when Megyn brings up the hug. Erika says, oh my gosh, you guys, please, and then she wipes her eyes. Now, I want you to ask yourself something. Are those sad tears, or are those laughing tears? Because to me, and I could be wrong, but to me, she looks like she's laughing. Not crying, not embarrassed, laughing. Then she goes on to defend the hug. She says her love language is touch. She says she always touches the back of people's heads when she hugs them. She says if you have a problem with the hug, you need a hug yourself. Okay, fair enough. But then she makes a joke that honestly shocked me. She says, I feel like I wouldn't get as much hate if I touched the back of his ass. Wait, did she just make a butt joke while talking about a controversy involving another man? When her husband was shot and killed less than 2 months ago? And then she keeps going with the jokes. She's laughing, she's smiling. She's treating this whole thing like it's funny. Now, I don't know about you, but when I think about someone who just lost their spouse in a violent public way, this isn't the energy I expect. This doesn't feel like someone who's heartbroken. This feels like someone who's annoyed that people are questioning her. And that's the problem, because the more she talks, the less authentic it feels. You know what I mean? But wait, because in that same interview with Megyn Kelly, Erika shared something even more emotional. And this is where things get really interesting.
So you did get married.
Yes.
You have 2 kids.
2 precious babies.
And you told me this in private, but how many kids did you guys want to have?
We wanted to have 4. And I was praying to God that I was pregnant when he got murdered.
Oh, wow. I thought of that once. Just like whether it was meant to be or whether we'd get news like that.
I was like, oh goodness, that would be the ultimate blessing out of this catastrophe. So now when I see young couples, I tell them, please don't put it off. Especially if you're a young woman, don't put it off. You can always have a career. You can always, go back to work. You can never just go back to having children. And they grow so fast and so quickly, but I was praying, both of us were. We were really excited to just expand our family.
Thank God you have the two.
I know.
Thank God. You know,
boy and girl, I know.
One day they'll find out. Right now they're just, little loves, and one day they'll find out that they're Charlie Kirk's children, and they'll know what that means.
In this clip, Erika reveals that she was praying to be pregnant when Charlie was murdered. She talks about how they wanted 4 kids, how she wishes she had one more piece of him. And look, that's heartbreaking. I'm not going to lie. If that's true, that's genuinely sad. But here's what people noticed. Watch how quickly she grabs that tissue. Watch how she dabs her eyes. It almost looks rehearsed, like she knew exactly when to reach for it. Body language experts online started breaking this down frame by frame, and a lot of them said the same thing. This doesn't look like spontaneous grief. This looks practiced. Now, maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe she's just good at holding it together on camera. But when you put this clip next to all the other footage, it starts to feel like a pattern. The tears come at the right moment. The tissue is grabbed at the perfect time. The message is delivered with just enough emotion to be sympathetic, but not so much that it's uncomfortable. It's almost like she's playing a role. And honestly, that's what's making people so uncomfortable. Because real grief is messy. It's ugly. It doesn't follow a script. But this feels too polished, too perfect, too controlled. And then she gives advice to young couples. She tells them not to put off having children. She talks about expanding families and going back to work. And I'm sitting here thinking, this woman's husband just died, and she's out here giving life advice like she's a motivational speaker? It just doesn't add up. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, okay, maybe she's just a touchy person. Maybe that's just how she is. But here's the thing. It's not just JD Vance. It's everyone.
Did y'all just see that? Y'all, let me show you this again. Watch his hand.
Did you catch that? One woman literally warned her husband not to touch Erika. She was joking, but also, was she really joking? Because it seems like a lot of people have noticed that Erika gets very comfortable very quickly with men. And it's not just random people noticing. Even Donald Trump looked uncomfortable. Look at Trump's face in this clip. That's not the face of someone who's comfortable. That's the face of someone who's thinking, what is happening right now? And when Donald Trump, a man who's been in the public eye for decades, a man who's hugged thousands of people, looks uncomfortable, you know something's off. People online started making memes about it. Even Trump is giving you side eye, one comment said. And honestly, that says it all. Because if the people around you are visibly uncomfortable with your behavior, maybe it's time to take a step back and ask why. But here's where things get really wild. Because some people online started digging into Erika and Charlie's past. And what they found is interesting, to say the least.
Nothing is a coincidence. Hold on to that thought. Did you know that Charlie Kirk's father, Robert W. Kirk, was actually the architect for Trump Towers? Also, did you know that Erika Lane Kirk won Miss Arizona USA in 2012? Don't forget, Donald Trump ran Miss America from 1996 until 2015. Seeing the correlation here? Now, not saying age difference is a big thing, but did you know Erika was 5 years Charlie Sr.? But this is where coincidences aren't coincidences. Watch this.
But just know that nothing is by mistake. Nothing. I will never forget the time I was in Israel with my husband. That was the second time, but the first time with my mother on a pilgrimage. And I was standing in the ticket line. And I remember looking behind me, and in the snake of the ticket line was a guy who looked very familiar. I had no idea who he was. And I told my mom, this guy looks so familiar. And as a typical mother, she said, go and say hi. No. We were late for our flight, and I'm not going to come off like a crazy person that's just weird. That ended up being Charlie. Nothing is by coincidence. Now, did we know that? No, not until we were like 3 months into our relationship and looking at timestamps, seeing that both of us were in Israel at the same time.
People, this was so arranged. And there's so much more to Erika Kirk. Kind of like how she was all into basketball, didn't want to be all girly, never liked to dress up, even cut all her hair off, and ended up being Miss USA. How does that happen? How do you go from sports to Miss USA? And then they meet at a Turning Point event in 2018, where she's interviewing for a job for Turning Point. Solidified. I got a feeling there's more to the story here.
Okay, so let's break down what this person just said, because there are a lot of connections here that seem too convenient to be coincidence. First, Charlie Kirk's father was the architect for Trump Tower. That's a pretty big connection, right? These families were linked long before Erika came into the picture. Second, Donald Trump ran Miss America from 1996 to 2015. And guess what? Erika won Miss Arizona USA in 2012, right in the middle of Trump's run. Coincidence? Maybe, but it's worth noting. Third, Erika is 5 years older than Charlie. Now that's not a huge age gap, but in conservative circles, where the man is usually older, it's unusual. It flips the typical dynamic. Fourth, and this is the big one, Erika tells this story about meeting Charlie in Israel. She says she was standing in a ticket line and saw a guy who looked familiar. She didn't approach him, but later, she found out it was Charlie, and she says, "Nothing is by coincidence." Now people are asking, was that really a chance meeting, or was it set up? Because here's the thing, Erika went from being a tomboy basketball player to Miss USA to marrying one of the most powerful men in conservative politics. That's a very specific trajectory. That takes planning, that takes connections. And when you add it all up, it starts to look less like a love story and more like a strategic partnership. Now, I'm not saying that's definitely what happened, but I am saying the internet is asking these questions. And the more footage that comes out, the harder it is to ignore the pattern. So what's Erika doing now? Well, she's not slowing down, that's for sure.
We always knew there were threats. We always knew that there were people out there that hated us with deep, deep passion of hate. But it didn't scare us. Never, he was never afraid of that. Neither was I. Obviously, we protect our children. You know, we don't show their faces on the internet, so that's very intentional. But I think we lived our life in such a way where if that was our last day, it was our last day. Like, we always lived as if it was the last day. That's why Charlie's speeches were so good, because he didn't know if that was going to be his last speech. And he was so intentional about every word. Every word had a meaning, and every speech had a connection point for the students and for whoever he was speaking to. And that's why he never missed the opportunity to weave the gospel into what he was saying.
Her latest Instagram post is about the Megyn Kelly interview. And in it, she talks about how people have always hated her and Charlie. But, she says, they were never afraid. Now, that's an interesting message, because it positions her as a victim, as someone who's been attacked unfairly, as someone who's just trying to carry on her husband's legacy. But here's what's wild. While she's posting about being victimized, she's living like she just won the lottery. She's now the CEO of Turning Point USA, making $286,000 a year. She's wearing designer gowns to every event. She's living in a mansion worth millions. She's traveling, she's speaking, she's building a brand. And look, maybe that's her way of coping. Maybe staying busy is how she deals with grief. But to a lot of people watching, it doesn't look like grief. It looks like ambition. It looks like someone who's using tragedy as a stepping stone to power. And whether that's fair or not, that's the perception. Because when you go from grieving widow to political powerhouse in a matter of weeks, people are going to ask questions. They're going to wonder if the grief was ever real, or if it was just part of the performance. So here's the big question, and I want you to really think about this. Is Erika Kirk genuinely moving forward with strength and grace? Or is there something else going on here? And remember, in a world where everything is recorded, the truth always finds a way to surface. The question is, are we ready to see it? See you in the next one.